Before the world knew Rowan Atkinson as the man who could make millions laugh without saying a word, he was a quiet boy growing up on a farm in County Durham, England, surrounded by fields, discipline, and expectation. Born on January 6, 1955, Rowan Sebastian Atkinson was the youngest of 4 sons in a family shaped by both structure and loss. One brother died in infancy, a tragedy that lingered quietly in the household, leaving the surviving children to grow up under the steady guidance of parents who valued education, self-control, and hard work. From the outside, it looked like a stable upbringing. But inside Rowan's own mind, a battle was forming early, one that would shape his identity far more deeply than fame ever could. The burden of a stutter. Around the age of 5, Rowan developed a severe stutter that made speaking feel exhausting and humiliating. Words got stuck, sentences fractured, and even simple classroom conversations became ordeals. Like school, instead of being a place of safety or discovery, turned into a daily test of endurance. His classmates noticed immediately, and children, often cruel without understanding, singled him out. Teasing escalated into mockery, and the boy with the expressive face and halting speech was treated as strange, even inhuman. Years later, former classmates would recall the harshness of that environment, noting how isolating it must have been for someone so visibly different. The label of alien followed him for years, not because of anything he did, but because he could not speak the way others expected him to, discovering an unexpected escape. Yet something extraordinary happened whenever Rowan stepped onto a stage. In front of an audience, performing a role, his stutter seemed to disappear almost entirely. The fear that tightened his chest in everyday conversation loosened its grip, replaced by focus and control. Acting created a distance between himself and his voice, as though the character, not Rowan, was doing the speaking. This was not confidence in the traditional sense, but relief. Relief from the constant self-monitoring, the anticipation of ridicule, the pressure of being understood. Performance became his refuge, not because it made him visible, but because it finally made him free. Academic excellence and quiet expectations. Despite the challenges of speech and social life, Rowan excelled academically. His intelligence was evident early, particularly in mathematics and science, and he pursued those strengths with determination. After school, he attended Newcastle University, where he studied electrical and electronic engineering, graduating in 1975. To his teachers and peers, his future seemed obvious: a stable career in engineering, perhaps research, perhaps industry. Comedy was not a practical ambition, especially for someone who struggled to speak. Even Rowan himself did not initially imagine entertainment as his path. Yet beneath the equations and lab work, the pull of performance remained quietly but persistently present. Oxford and the turning point. Rowan continued his studies at the Queen's College, Oxford, where he began work on a master's degree and briefly pursued doctoral research. Oxford was intellectually demanding, but it was also culturally alive. And it was there that Rowan found the environment that allowed both sides of him to coexist. He joined the Drama Society and a student review group where his unique approach to comedy began to take shape. Fellow students noticed a transformation. The reserved, soft-spoken engineering student became animated, precise, and fearless on stage. It was during this time that Rowan met writer Richard Curtis, a collaboration that would define both of their careers. The power of physical comedy. What set Rowan apart even then was not verbal wit alone, but his instinctive understanding of physical comedy. Influenced by performers like Buster Keaton and Jacques Tati, he explored movement, facial expression, and timing with near scientific precision. His performances relied less on clever lines and more on controlled absurdity, drawing laughter from silence as effectively as from speech. This approach did more than entertain. It protected him. Physical comedy allowed Rowan to communicate without confronting the vulnerability of speech, turning his perceived weakness into a creative advantage. Early recognition and lingering doubt. In 1976, Rowan performed with the Oxford Revue at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, marking his first significant exposure beyond university audiences. The reception was mixed but promising. Some viewers were confused by his unconventional style, while others recognized something rare and original. Despite this, success did not come easily. After completing his thesis in 1978, Rowan faced repeated rejections from broadcasters who struggled to categorize his work. Television executives were uncertain how to use a performer who didn't fit traditional formats, and auditions were particularly stressful, often triggering the return of his stutter. For a time, Rowan considered walking away from comedy altogether, learning to hide inside characters. During this period of uncertainty, Rowan made a crucial realization. When he spoke as himself, anxiety and hesitation returned, but when he became someone else, the stutter faded. Characters provided armor. They allowed him to speak, move, and exist without self-consciousness. This understanding reshaped his approach to performance. Rather than trying to overcome his speech difficulties directly, he leaned into character work, crafting personas so complete that Rowan Atkinson almost disappeared inside them. It was not deception, it was survival. Rowan's first real breakthrough came in 1979 with a BBC radio series that featured him playing multiple fictional characters. Though the program aired quietly and reached a limited audience, it demonstrated his versatility and originality. Critics who heard it took notice, even if the wider public did not. Around the same time, he collaborated closely with fellow performers from Oxford, building confidence and refining his style in a supportive environment. These collaborations were crucial, allowing him to grow without the pressure of mainstream attention. Comedy meets tragedy. The final installment of that series took an unexpected turn, blending humor with a sobering portrayal of war. The balance was delicate, but it worked. The ending, quiet and devastating, resonated deeply with viewers and remains one of the most remembered moments in television. For Rowan, this project was meaningful, not just artistically, but emotionally. It was collaborative, supportive, and, by his own account, less isolating than much of his earlier work. The birth of a global icon then came the character that would define him to the world. First appearing on television in 1990, this almost silent figure relied almost entirely on physical comedy, making him instantly accessible across cultures and languages. The show's success was unprecedented, reaching audiences in nearly every country and turning Rowan into an international star. Ironically, the character's minimal speech mirrored the very struggle Rowan had lived with for decades. The hidden toll of laughter while audiences laughed. Rowan worked under intense physical and emotional strain. Each episode required extreme facial control, precise timing, and physical endurance. Filming left him drained, sometimes for days. Though grateful for the success, Rowan often spoke privately about how exhausting the role was, admitting that it brought pressure rather than pleasure. The character gave him global recognition, but it also reinforced his habit of hiding behind performance, choosing sustainability over fame. Over time, Rowan sought ways to reduce the physical demands of the role. Animated adaptations allowed him to continue the character without the same strain, and occasional special appearances replaced regular production. A final major live performance during an international sporting event brought the character full circle, delighting millions while reminding Rowan of his own limits. It was widely seen as a farewell, even if never officially declared as such. A private life under public scrutiny. Away from the stage, Rowan's personal life unfolded largely out of view for many years. He married, raised 2 children, and maintained a relatively quiet domestic life compared to many celebrities. Later, changes in that personal world drew public attention, sometimes uncomfortably so. Through it all, Rowan remained reserved, rarely addressing speculation directly, preferring to keep private matters private. Courage beyond comedy, Rowan's life has included moments of real-world bravery and conviction that contrast sharply with his on-screen personas. He has spoken publicly about freedom of expression, argued for the importance of open debate, and on one extraordinary occasion, helped avert a serious crisis during a flight by remaining calm under pressure. These moments reveal a man far more complex than the characters he plays. Living with doubt. Despite awards, acclaim, and global admiration, Rowan has often described himself as uncertain, even self-critical. He has spoken candidly about feeling inadequate, about questioning whether he truly deserved his success. These doubts, rooted in childhood experiences, never fully disappeared. Fame did not erase them, it merely changed their context. Reaching 70. As Rowan reached his 70th birthday, fans around the world celebrated his career and influence. His work continues to reach new generations, and his characters remain instantly recognizable. Yet Rowan himself seems less focused on legacy than on balance. on choosing projects carefully, protecting his well-being, and accepting that it is okay to step back, a legacy of quiet strength. Rowan Atkinson's story is not simply one of success, but of adaptation. He did not conquer his stutter, he learned to live with it. He did not erase his fear, he found ways around it. Through discipline, creativity, and resilience, he transformed vulnerability into art, silence into laughter. For audiences, he is a legend. For himself, he remains a work in progress, and perhaps that is what makes his journey so deeply human.